My name is Ralph Braun. I'm a Snowflake Solutions Engineer. I'm sharing a quick video that shows an example of using an external service to geocode addresses in Snowflake. My example uses an API from here.com, but there's a number of other services that can be used. I'll be working in a Snowflake notebook. In notebooks, I can run SQL and Python interchangeably. This example is 100% SQL based. And so basically, we'll walk through everything you need to do it on your own. I'm going to create a database and other objects. I'll load some sample data. I'll then create a network rule and external access integration, which allows me to securely access the API from Snowflake. We'll then geocode some sample addresses. And I've got a number of other views and some examples of the output that we'll look at. So let's take a look at what we have. So again, this is a Snowflake notebook, complete geocoding demo, and I'll share this notebook after the fact. Here are some instructions on setting up a here.com account to get an API key. And let's scroll through here. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to create a database and schema. Click into this cell. We'll run it. The green line indicates that it's executing. And then once it's done, we'll see the output. So there we go. Statement was executed successfully. We've got a database. We've got a schema in there. Now the next step, I had already gotten my API key. I've stored it already, but these are the steps you would use to add this to your environment. I'm not going to show my key here. But again, these are the steps. Simply uncomment the secret string, add your API key, and run the cell. Let's continue on. So next step is we want to create the network rule and external access integration. This is going to allow us to reach out from Snowflake to that external service. So I'm going to run a couple cells here. Next comes the external access integration. Great, so now we've got the ability to reach out to that API, we've got the key in the environment. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use those items and we're going to create a UDF to call that here API. So this is a Python user-defined function, but I am running this in a SQL cell. So this is a SQL-based user-defined function leveraging Python. Now I'm going to create some objects. I've got a source table. This is where we're going to put the addresses that need to be geocoded. I'm going to have an output table. So once an address has been geocoded, I want to save that information to a table. So we're just laying the foundation here. All right. Now we're going to add some sample addresses. Simple insert statement. I'm going to put in 6 different addresses. I'll run that. Awesome. So we've got 6 records inserted. Next step here is to create the main processing procedure. So this is going to go through. It's going to take the data that we put into the source table. It's going to geocode it, write the results to our output table. So that's executed successfully. We can see the output status there. And let's see here. So let's take a look at the addresses that need to be geocoded, right? So we had loaded them into the table. We'll do a quick select here. And I've got an indicator there, right? So if something was not geocoded, that's the default. So these are the 6 addresses that need to be geocoded. Let's go ahead and execute the process to geocode. So this is where we're actually going to reach out to that API. We're leveraging a stored procedure that we used. That's going to run. This is going to take, 10, 15 seconds. Basically, it's doing an API call out to that external service, passing in the address, going to geocode it. It's going to get the results, and it's going to write those results to a table. And so here I can see the output. 6 addresses were passed in. We've had 6 success, 0 errors. That's good news. Let's take a look here. We've got a few more SQL statements we can run. See the addresses, again, that we had passed in. We'll see the geocoded field is now updated to yes, meaning they were successful, and that was updated. I can take a look at the results now. Address information. If I scroll to the right, I can see the long have been added. And I've also got a timestamp in there so I can understand when it took place. Here's a simple test with, we're going to use Google Maps. We'll just create a URL here. Let's get an address. And what I'll do is I'll just copy this in, go to another tab, and we'll just do a little bit of a sanity check here. Now we can see, so this is actually where I grew up in Rochester, New York. That's my address. That looks familiar, so everything's looking good there. Let's come back to our notebook. And there are some other statements here just to do some analytics and understand a bit about the addresses once you've geocoded and so forth. That's looking good. If I wanted to, I could find failed addresses. I think everything was successful here. But this, again, is just kind of creating some visibility if you were to implement this here. I've got some monitoring views to again, get more stats on what's taken place. It's this very small sample test data set I have here, but this gives you an idea of what's possible. Awesome, right? So there we go, 6 addresses in total. We've geocoded 6. We don't have any in the pending, 100% success. And so again, that was kind of a one-off process that's going to run through and geocode every address that's in that table. That might not be practical if you have, hundreds of thousands of records to geocode. You might want to do a bit of a batch process, and that's what we have here too. I'm not going to go through everything now, but again, the bottom line is I could create a batch version of this. I'll run a couple of these cells, I guess. So this is going to create a stored procedure that has inputs of record numbers. I'll add in a few more records to geocode, some samples to test it. Then here's the execution of the batch process. So what I'm saying here is call the batch process stored procedure. We're going to do just 100 records. And so again, that would allow you to go in different, smaller batches versus the whole Big Bang Theory. So it all depends on the amount of data you have. So that's running. So again, that's going to take probably, 10 or 15 seconds. There we go, 6 more records. And there you go. So, and then here, just kind of give you an example of what's possible, right? So you've taken your addresses, you've geocoded them, then you can bring them into something, such as a Snowflake Streamlit dashboard. Again, you don't need any license keys. This is all part of the Snowflake platform. I can run Streamlit. Here I can visualize the addresses here. I've got a hex, and if I want to, I can switch over to individual points. And there, everything is running for you, right? So again, taking that data from raw addresses, to geocoding it, and then putting it on a map. So hopefully this has been helpful. Thanks for taking the time to watch it. I will post a link in the comments to the GitHub repo that has this notebook. And then also I have a video that shows, an example of a Streamlit dashboard with geocoded addresses. So thanks again for watching. Have a great day.